So, I've talked a little bit about customer experiences and service and how it matters, but how do we go about actually doing it? So what I want to talk about briefly is a methodology which we have used successfully, and hopefully you can take a few bits away in terms of the purpose, the customers and the values through systems thinking. And then ultimately how a relationship is also critical for the customer's experience as well, and how business relationship management can help you with that. So how do we improve our customer's experience? There's absolutely shed loads of ways and methods that we can use to improve our customers' experience. But one model in particular, and also as a cultural aspect, is the systems thinking approach, which at its core looks at the purpose of the services that we offer, what matters to the customers, and how, being innovative in the way we've changed our approach to improving our frontline services, we have seen some small but significant changes here at the university. We're continuing to achieve this by challenging the conventional command and control management thinking, by taking that away instead of saying this is what I want, and saying to the frontline teams, you're with your customer, you know what makes them tick, you come up with the ideas and the suggestions. And then as a result, we started to change some of the fundamentals behind our approach. So some of the small but significant success stories about how we've removed constraints on the laptop loan service to students. Before we used to say you could have this for an hour or a day. Now we've just removed the complete bureaucracy and time limits behind it, and it's been a great success. The way we support teaching spaces and the organisational structure of our frontline teams has also changed to meet customer demand, having gone and seen what it is that they were wanting to achieve. So what I really wanted to do is just give you some very basic principles around the model. So you'll see it on the screen shortly, but fundamentally what you want to think about is the purpose. This needs to be set by your customer. Demand. This is really important. It's crucial that you understand the notion from the customer's perspective. So when they're interacting with us, are we giving them that first time solution, or are we having to make them wait and do some rework because we haven't got it right the first time? The capability. What determines it is what matters to our customers. This is a key measure of the system. Flow. This is really important because it's around the process, but it's how you design it to meet each demand of the customer. Look at all the things, so from start to finish, cradle to grave, at what we do to deliver that customer experience and the value that we add. If we're not actively adding value to the customer, you need to be looking at it as potential waste and work on getting rid of it. There are things called system conditions. So the reason why we've designed a process or a flow the way it is because there could be certain barriers that exist. So things like legal and regulatory constraints you can't do much about, but if you can have them in a controlled way so they don't get in the way of what the customer wants, it's not their problem in terms of what ISO say or what the government says. At the end of the day, they come to you, they want a product or a service, you give them that back, and that is what creates the experience. And then it's underpinned by the thinking. We design things in a particular way based on our current way of thinking and the assumptions that we make. And it's really about, from a customer's perspective, taking that step back and how you can then be more effective. So it's underpinned by a basic principle loop about checking and planning, continuously doing something about it. So as you can see on the screen, coming up with a purpose in customer terms, the demand, what matters, the capability, the flow, the system conditions and the thinking that go behind it. If you think of the very basic Deming approach of plan, do, check, and what the approach from what I've just mentioned, that will help give you some way of measuring what matters to the customer and how you can identify and remove some of the blockers. Just moving on to how relationships matter to the customer. We need to come out from behind the desk. How many times have you contacted a contact centre or emailed somebody and you've got Google it? So what I want to talk to you next, having established a methodology that you could potentially use, I want to talk about how relationships are key to any customer experience, particularly within IT. Because after all, our customers can go elsewhere if we're not going to be able to give them the service that they expect and what they need. They are built over time, but some fundamentals I'd like to include are you need to speak to your customers in their language and in terms they understand. I.e., don't go and talk to them about techie. So if you go and talk about the latest MS SQL box or the OS upgrade, some of them may get it, but chances are a lot of them probably won't. You need to manage expectations when the unexpected happens. The experience, going back to, I talked about the restaurant earlier, what made it a really great experience for me is I knew a day before that they were going to have a large business party. And they rung me up and apologised and said, look, would you mind just turning up 20 minutes later than planned? And not a problem. If I didn't know this in advance though, I'd have been less sympathetic and my customer experience would have been completely different. You need to be personable and tailor your approach to different audiences. Showing personality is a good thing, but it's a two-way street. Get to know what your customer is about and understand what excites them. So an example here at the university, we have a massive diverse range of customers, and I have to communicate very differently, whether it's students, academics, staff. They all think and act very differently, so do I when I'm dealing with them. So sometimes I can get away with being a village idiot, other times I need to be the consummate professional, other times I need to talk very, very simply. People ultimately buy from people, and this is particularly true with the human side of IT. So instead of getting bogged down with email, pick up the phone and go and see your customers. Don't rely on hiding behind the desk, even if your customer does. So just summing up the methodology and the relationships, you need to have an approach that identifies the purpose of what your customers' needs are and get rid of any waste and barriers that are stopping you from achieving that. And also don't underestimate how human interaction and building relationships can affect your customer's experience. If you want to know a little bit more, I do recommend some books and some presentations. So Andrea Kiss has done various presentations and articles on the beauty and simplicity of common sense business relationship management. If you Google Andrea, she is very big in this field. Works for Tata Consultancy, some very good stuff from her. If you want to know more about the systems thinking side of it and the methodology that I mentioned, check out the Freedom from Command and Control and the Systems Thinking in the Public Sector books by John Seddon. And finally, if you wanted to get in touch with myself, I am available on Twitter at John Morley ITSM, or feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. More than happy to contribute. Thanks for listening, and I hope some of this is of use.